Do you need some small entryway inspiration? We're gonna DIY a custom mudroom storage wall. Hey there, it's Christina from the DIYmommy.com. As you might know, we recently renovated a rundown lake cottage right from the studs up. I've shared almost every room makeover in this rental home with you, but today I want to share how we transformed this small entryway. I'm so excited to be partnering with Bear today, who is sponsoring this video. I am using Bear Dynasty and some of the colors from Bear's 2022 color trends to create a DIY mudroom storage wall that's going to be completely functional in a cheerful color to really make a statement in this space. Ready to DIY? Let's get started. To begin, let's talk about how we got to this point here from the original mudroom entry of this cabin. We had to rip this entire home right down to the studs because there was insulation issues, rodent issues, a host of other things. So we did the same thing to this space here. My husband, Sean, ripped off all of the drywall, pulled out all the old insulation that wasn't sufficient, and then we ended up swapping the two closets around in here. There was one right at the entry coming into this entryway, and then there was another one going into the bedroom. We ended up switching those around because we moved the frame of the kids' bedroom over slightly. Long story short, it shifted all of the other framing around. So we swapped the two closets. We have the kids' bedroom closet on the other side of that room now, which I think looks great, completely functional. Rather than making the other side of this entry a closet, we decided to keep it open and leave it as a storage nook. So after having the whole home professionally spray foam insulated, Sean re-drywalled the whole entry. We put up some shiplap in the ceiling as well as some crown molding, and then we painted the whole thing. We also installed some plain white shaker cabinets from the Home Depot. I left handles off of these because we want them to be more for our use rather than the guests' use. So for our entire little lake house, we chose a really neutral palette. I chose Bear Ultra Pure White for all of the trim and ceilings and doors in this home because it is my favorite pure white. It has a really high light reflective value, which means it is so bright. It's gonna really bounce around all the natural light in this space and make this smaller home feel a lot bigger. Then I chose Bear's Silky White for the walls in most of this home. It is also white, but it contrasts ever so slightly with the Ultra Pure White because it has a little bit of a grayish undertone, nice and warm, but still very neutral and bright. And finally, I went with Bear's Observatory, which is such a beautiful, warm, blue-gray green. You probably remember I painted the whole feature wall in the primary bedroom of this home in that color. It is such a beautiful, rich color, probably my favorite blue right now. And I'm also painting both of the doors in the cabin in this color, including the side door. I'm loving how it looks with the siding on the outside, and I'm loving how painting the doors in this color ties in with the accent wall in the bedroom, the accent wall that we already did in the living room, and it just keeps the smaller space nice and cohesive. So that is how we got to this point here. Now it is fine, it's functional. I put an old TV stand down here that I thought works really well as an entry bench. It already has the storage down there. I also put some hooks on the wall. But to be honest, I really want more for this space. It doesn't have that wow factor that I would love for guests and tenants to experience when they come into the home. So here's where this DIY mudroom storage wall is gonna come in. I'm beginning by picking out some paint colors that are complementary to the ones I already have in this entire home. I'm looking at the Bear Color Trends 2022 colors. Lots of them are like rich and earthy colors that I think are gonna go really well in this space. My eye is already drawn to this beautiful sunshiny yellow. It's called Cornstalk, and when I first did a mood board of this space, I did want to incorporate some yellow and gold tones along with the blues and whites. I'm gonna pick this one for the main feature storage wall in our entry. Oh wow, look at that. I'm also loving this beautiful green called Laurel Tree. I think this will look beautiful as accents in the space. It is a very natural color which goes with this lake house theme. Also loving this beautiful grayish tone called Studio Clay, which I think we could bring in little accents as well throughout the entry. And I'm gonna use some Whisper White as well. I'm very excited this is in the Bear Color Trends 2022 palette because if you know me, you know I've used this color a lot. I have a whole blog post dedicated to Bear's Whisper White. I'm gonna start building this entry storage wall. We wanna add some kind of punch of color, and that's why I wanna go with the cornstalk yellow for this wall. Bear Dynasty interior paint and primer in cornstalk yellow is gonna make this whole entry pop and this wall become a feature. This paint is also stain repellent and scuff resistant, which I think is the perfect type of paint for this entry that might get a lot of wear and tear. Now I'm using some trim that I grabbed from the Home Depot, and I'm going to create this hook wall. I'm cutting the trim down to size with my little miter saw. If you don't have a miter saw yet, definitely look into one. It is like my favorite tool to use for most of my DIY projects. I also got this beadboard paneling from Home Depot as well. I'm just using the full 4-foot long sheet, and I'm finding it's the perfect length for this spot. So just encasing this whole thing in 4-inch wide trim is going to be just the right width and height that I want for my hook wall. Typically, you like hooks to be between 4 and 5 feet off the ground, dependent on whether they're being used for children or for adults. Now, after cutting everything and making sure it's the right size, I am attaching it to my wall. I'm using a finishing nail gun, and any pieces that are not going into studs, I'm using some wood glue, applying that onto the back, and then I'm nailing the piece onto the wall. Otherwise, I'm just using a stud finder to ensure that all of my nails are going into studs so that this wall is nice and secure. So as well as beauty, I'm also trying to go for function and safety here too. I'm using this pine shelf. I cut it down to size, and I'm going to be placing this on the top of this trimmed out area for a shelf. We're gonna place some baskets on top of that for even more storage in this area. I'm attaching these brackets to the top of the trim work that I installed with some screws. Since they're being screwed right into the trim, they're nice and secure. After the brackets are installed, I'm going to put this shelf on top, attach it with some screws. Now I think I'm gonna add some trim work around the bench because I wanted to make sure that the whole hook wall was level. The floor is a little uneven in this old 1959 house, so I'm gonna add a piece of trim on top of the TV unit / bench and on the side. I wanna be able to take this unit out, clean really thoroughly underneath it, and then put it back in. So this trim is gonna make it look built in, but in reality, it's not. Now, once all of my trim and everything is in, I'm taking some latex caulking and caulking all of those seams. We wanna make this look nice and professionally finished. We don't wanna have holes or seams anywhere. Now that all my joins and seams are caulked, I am taking my cornstalk color in Bear Dynasty and painting the whole thing. I'm using my brush for all the detail areas, and then I'm using a foam roller for everything else to give that nice smooth finish. I am so impressed with the coverage of this paint. I'm pretty sure you could get away with 1 coat for lots of projects. I'm gonna go with 2 coats again for this just to make sure that I'm not missing any areas. This color definitely packs a punch. I'm painting this current TV stand that I had on hand. It's white with a wooden top. I'm gonna keep this wooden top, and I'm using Bear Dynasty to paint all of the exterior part of this TV stand as well as all the drawers. Now the surface of this TV stand is already nice and matte, so I think I can go ahead and use the paint right on top without priming. However, I'm just giving it a light sand just to make sure that this paint really sticks. If you're painting over furniture or cabinetry that has any kind of a glossy or satin finish, you're gonna wanna make sure that you sand it and prime it first. I want to paint this TV unit to look like a bench, plus I'm going to paint the wall behind it in the cornstalk color, so it's going to all look like one cohesive unit. Since this paint has fantastic coverage, it's going to be able to work on all of these surfaces and make them look cohesive and high-end. I'm using a foam roller to paint this TV unit to give it a nice even finish. Even after 1 coat, I'm finding that this is already looking pretty good. I could almost get away with 1 coat on this. 2 coats for this was completely perfect, and I'm loving this color. While I'm waiting for this whole entry to dry, I'm gonna create a couple little accent pieces to further create interest in this space and tie all of my colors together. I grabbed an 18-inch by 24-inch canvas, and I'm using all of my Behr colors to create a really simple piece of art. I'm taking a pencil and drawing some wavy lines on my canvas, and then taking all of the different colors and painting them in those waves on the canvas. After everything is dried, I think I'm gonna add little splashes of Whisper White onto this canvas to give it a little bit more texture and interest. It's kind of feeling a little flat, so let's give it some life with these blotches. I'm just taking my paintbrush and literally throwing the paint onto the canvas to create sort of an interesting speckled design. Now I'm taking some scrap pieces of 1x2. These actually came with a dishwasher we ordered. They were part of the packaging, so I kept them. I'm cutting them down with my miter saw and attaching them with a finishing nailer all the way around the edge of this canvas to make it look finished. I'm hanging up this canvas on the way to the entry because I love how it looks when you're looking into the entry and you see this art that's bringing all of these colors together. Now I'm taking a terracotta pot. I'm taking that beautiful laurel tree, that green color, and I'm just gonna freehand a nice rounded design on this pot. This is such a beautiful earthy color that I think is gonna look great in this space. And it's always nice to have some sort of greenery in an area just to give it a little bit of life. The final accessory I want to DIY is this seagrass basket. Found this at Home Depot. We're just gonna add a little bit of paint to the bottom to give it even more interest. I'm using Behr Studio Clay. I was gonna tape around this one, but actually it's working out better without any painter's tape at all. I'm just free-handing sort of that dipped look on the bottom. This color is so subtle. Again, it has that earthy feel to it. It's gonna add another neutral color to the space, but I feel like it doesn't take away from all of the other colors that are already here. My husband, Sean, created a little shelf out of some leftover marble paneling and some leftover butcher block that he had from previous jobs. He's just popping it on top of the countertop to get rid of that space behind and make everything look nice and neat and finished. I'm adding a few more accessories. I'm adding some rugs, one utility rug because this is a rental property and we wanna make sure that we have a nice practical rug by the door, and then one cute little rug that's tying in all these colors together, and we are all done. So as a reminder, here is what this entry looked like when we bought the little lake house. Here's what the entry looked like when we finished the first stage of the renovation. And here is what our mudroom entry looks like now. I think this turned out fabulously. I love the impact of this yellow color in this space. I feel like this is what we needed to bring some personality into this entry, and I feel like this color and this feature wall is gonna help wow our guests as they enter. This DIY hook wall adds a ton of storage to the space without making it feel closed in. I love all the drawers we have in our TV stand turned bench, and so do all of the little accessories using the different paint colors. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I am totally in love with how our entry turned out. Thanks again to Behr for sponsoring this makeover. I would love to hear what you think of this DIY storage wall. Let me know down in those comments below. And make sure to click on the link in the description box below to learn more about Behr Dynasty interior paint and primer so that you can get started on your own room makeover.